China's high-speed rail cannot be bypassed by Liu Zhijun. Share an article today. The author is Japanese scholar Kato Kaike, from a Japanese perspective, gave us a different way of thinking. JLLS 01. When I first came to China, Liu Zhijun had just become the Minister of Railways of China. Over the past 8 years, I have traveled countless times by Chinese trains. I have taken the dirty and messy ordinary trains, as well as the modern Harmony, and I will definitely take the world's leading Beijing-Shanghai high-speed railway in the future. However, Liu Zhijun, the father of China's high-speed rail, did not have the opportunity to see the opening of the Beijing-Shanghai high-speed rail as the Minister of Railways. He was ousted for serious breaches of discipline in railway construction. The world's media, which have always paid high attention to China's high-speed rail and indeed praised it a lot, were somewhat shocked by this explosive news. However, as a Japanese who grew up next to the Shinkansen, I don't think this is worth making a fuss about. It just reenacts a certain period of Japanese history. Just like the fourth lyric in the Internationale, the Emperor of Mines and Railways is extremely ugly on the altar. Both China and Japan are the same. In 1955, Shinji Shihei, who participated in planning the September 18 incident, was appointed as the president of Japan's state-owned railways, equivalent to the Minister of Railways. At that time, Japan's railways and trains were all old goods left over from before the war, and their level was far inferior to that of India. Internationally, the railway industry has become more and more marginalized due to competition from automobiles and aircraft, and has become a typical sunset industry. But Shinji Togawa, 71, decided from the moment he took office to build a new high-speed railway that would cut the journey between Tokyo and Osaka from 8 hours to 3. Liu Zhijun can be called China's 10 rivers of letters. When I took the Chinese train for the first time in 2003, I felt that the train was dirty, messy, and very backward, and I couldn't buy a ticket when I really wanted to take the train, which was decades behind the Shinkansen. In 2006, the Qinghai-Tibet Railway was open to traffic, and the media continued to publicize it, so I began to notice the changes in the railway. Kawasaki and Siemens shareholders also have reason to be happy. Before China introduced the first batch of emus with a speed of 250 km per hour in 2004, Liu Zhijun summoned the country's railway equipment manufacturers to Beijing. The Ministry of Railways maintains a planned economy system, and these people are all his subordinates, and told them that this time I will lead the negotiations, and any one of you who dares to contact foreigners should stop doing it. During the negotiation, Liu Zhijun succeeded in convincing the suppliers that he will control half of the railway construction funds in the world and can determine the future of each one. In order to obtain more orders, the Japanese, French, Germans, and Canadians criticized each other in Beijing in the summer, and provided the information collected by each other for decades to the Ministry of Railways, and the prices were lower and lower. In the end, the representative of Siemens became the only one who could not reach a consensus with the Chinese side, and the final result was that Japan, France, and Canada each got a part of the order, and the Germans had none at all, so the representative of Siemens was fired after returning home. 3 years later, the Ministry of Railways invited bids to purchase a real high-speed train with a speed of 350 km per hour. The price quoted by Siemens was actually cheaper than the 250 km train 3 years ago, and it also promised to sell the entire vehicle manufacturing technology at a price of 80 million euros. Announced to the media that it has independent intellectual property rights. Liu Zhijun also bought a Kawasaki car at the price offered by Siemens, and also bought a complete set of manufacturing technology. In July 2010, a factory under the Ministry of Railways launched China's third-generation EMU CRH380, the world's fastest train with wheels. This car is divided into 4 types, A, B, C, D, among which A type comes from Kawasaki, B type, and C type come from Siemens technology. Compared with the previous 2 generations, this kind of car was theoretically developed by China itself, and Kawasaki and Siemens could not get any income except for selling some parts that China could not make themselves. There are many precedents in the world for high-speed rail technology transfer, but such a result has never happened before. Surprisingly, Kawasaki and Siemens not only gave up their efforts to sue the Ministry of Railways in China, they were not even prepared to do so when China sold the CRH380 abroad. This is not only because the 2 parties have signed a technology transfer agreement, but also because China has transformed many key technologies. For example, the front of a Japanese train is made of many steel plates, and China relies on the world's largest China's hydraulic machine directly pressed it out. China also used the wind tunnel in kindling to test the air resistance on the front of the car and modified its shape. The more important issue is that China's modified design allows the copycat trains to run faster than the prototype, so even if the lawsuit is brought to the courts of the United States and the United Kingdom, the court may not necessarily judge China to be infringing. The increase in train speed alone is not enough to attract too much attention to China's high-speed rail. The essence of high-speed rail lies in the road itself. In fact, China has long decided to build a high-speed rail between Beijing and Shanghai, but it has been arguing for 20 years on the issue of whether to adopt maglev technology. Liu Zhijun circumvented the problem. He neither built a high-speed rail nor mentioned the Beijing-Shanghai line. Instead, he took advantage of the time when people complained about the difficulty of buying tickets during the Spring Festival travel every year, and started to build so-called passenger-dedicated lines, intercity railways, etc. in other places. The second double line will be announced as a high-speed rail after the construction is completed. The passenger train from Beijing to Guangzhou is almost built on an unbent bridge extending from Beijing to Guangzhou. The CRH train can run the entire distance at a speed of 380 kilometers without slowing down. The passenger train between Shijiazhuang and Taiyuan is even more used. A tunnel passes through the entire Taihang Mountains. In contrast, Japan's Tokai line has many turns, and the train must slow down to pass. Its real speed is only a little more than half of Liu's passenger train. Liu's approach has achieved miraculous success. The numerous anti-high-speed rail factions rarely pay attention to the start of passenger trains and intercity railways. They only express their views when the word high-speed rail comes out. It's close to opening to traffic, and it's too late to say anything. Kaiwan itself is the place where China is superior to Japan and Europe, but its price is very high. In the cheapest place, Liu's passenger train cost 70 million yuan to build 1 kilometer. In mountainous areas and places with high land prices, the construction cost reaches more than 130 million yuan per kilometer. In order to build the planned 18,000 kilometer passenger train, Liu needs at least 2 to 3 trillion yuan of investment, while the railway investment in 2004 was only a pitiful 51.6 billion. Liu may not be very good at cheating accounts, so he pooled all the projects on hand and threatened the bank in the old way: either lend me more, or I will borrow from other places. In 2007, Liu increased the investment to 200 billion yuan with the support of the bank, but the fun has not yet begun. Liu Zhijun's data map. 02. When the economic crisis broke out in 2008, the Chinese government proposed a 4 trillion bailout plan. Liu's high-speed rail blueprint was approved by the central government and received 1.5 trillion additional support. So since 2009, railway investment has exceeded 700 billion yuan, surpassing military spending and the sum total of the 15 years before Liu came to power. Liu finally realized his prophecy of controlling half of the world's railway investment. At this time, Liu Zhijun's negotiating art has improved again. He called the representatives of the steel company and the cement company to bid. Liu built a total of 18,000 kilometers of railways in 8 years, equivalent to a quarter of the original line, of which 7,000 kilometers are exclusively for passengers. The length of the railway under construction now is 30,000 kilometers, of which 13,000 kilometers are passenger only, most of which will be open to traffic in 2011. In the future, starting from Beijing, you can reach any provincial capital except Haikou, Lhasa, and Urumqi within 8 hours. Since the construction has already started, these railways cannot be stopped, and this year's railway investment will still reach a record high of 850 billion yuan. In the future, Vietnam, Mongolia, and Pakistan are all likely to strengthen their ties with China by transforming their own railways, and China will certainly meet their demands one by one. In the process of going out, the Ministry of Railways will also receive more investment. He believes that Liu crossover, Liu Zhijun's nickname because he often said that the railway will achieve leapfrog development, only has eyes on the railway and never considers the feelings of the employees. Under Liu's leadership, the living standards of railway workers were not good. They often spent a month or two on the train without even eating well. To make matters worse, Liu Zhijun was also ambitious in terms of personnel. If he said that the railway branch would be withdrawn, anyone who was not satisfied with the leadership would immediately lose his job within the system. The political life of Liu Zhijun is over, but the railway problem has just begun. How will the Ministry of Railways and the railway network deal with it? In Japan, The Shinkansen has been losing money after the completion of the construction, and it did not start to make a profit until the 1980s after the Japanese economy took off. Therefore, the government implemented the privatization reform of the state-owned railways in 1987. According to economic laws, China's railways should be privatized sooner or later. But the situation created by Liu Zhijun is much more complicated than Xinji Shaihe. Relying on its image of never going bankrupt, the Ministry of Railways has won a large number of commercial bank investments. If this condition disappears, the investment capital chain will also be broken, and the government may need to spend more money to rescue the market. In China, owing 20,000 yuan will bring a lot of pressure, but it is much easier to owe 200 million yuan. Owing 2 trillion yuan is basically tantamount to kidnapping the creditor. The new minister who succeeded Liu Zhijun actually didn't need to feel any pressure at all. The number of layoffs in Japan's national railway privatization movement is 440,000, and the National Railway is originally an enterprise, while China's Ministry of Railways is a railway ministry integrating government and enterprise. I think not only should I not be laid off, but I should be compensated for the hard work of the past 8 years. Privatization may lead to what the train conductor imagined as a general strike on the whole road, or local chaos. Is China ready to go through this painful process? Perhaps it is 10 times more difficult to lift the kidnapping of China by the Ministry of Railways than it is to kidnap China. 03. First, we have made every effort to draw a beautiful blueprint for the long-term development of China's railways. In January 2004, the State Council approved my country's first industry plan. This is the railway medium and long-term road network planning. The birth of this plan can be said to be Liu Zhijun's first masterpiece after he took charge of the Ministry of Railways. For the release of this plan, he carefully organized, worked hard, traveled around, and actively advised. Second, the construction of the Qinghai-Tibet Railway has always been placed at the top of the railway infrastructure. On July 1, 2003, in a video conference speech on the entire line of the Qinghai-Tibet Railway in Lhasa, he used the 4 greats to summarize the status, role, and achievements of the Qinghai-Tibet Railway construction, and made a corresponding elaboration. This is great decision, great project, great spirit, great team. In Yushin's impression, it is the first time since the founding of the People's Republic of China that the 4 great is used to summarize the political, economic, people's livelihood and even cultural significance of a civil engineering project. The evaluation of the 4 greatnesses greatly mobilized and inspired the labor enthusiasm, creative enthusiasm, and sense of honor of the masters of all builders after the meeting. Third, practice the purpose of the People's Railway for the people. Liu Zhijun insisted on not raising prices during the Spring Festival travel season. Although he was publicly opposed and criticized by economists including Wu Jinglian, he still did not change his original intention. Idea. His explanation for this is that he is a farmer's son and he cannot allow ticket dealers to exploit the blood of migrant workers.